Potential Experts is brought to you by Vermonti's. Craving something cheesy, crispy, and unforgettably delicious? Say hello to Vermonti's Pizza, where every slice is a love letter to the Green Mountain State. From classic pepperoni to our legendary mac and cheese pizza, we're serving up bold flavors you won't find anywhere else. Order online and get 20% off your first order with promo code Vermonti20. That's VERMONTY20. Hit us up on Instagram at Vermonti's_Vermont Eats to see what's hot and fresh right now. Vermonti's Pizza, homegrown, handmade, and hella good. Welcome to Potential Experts, ladies and gentlemen. Have a pretty, I'll say, diverse show in terms of the sports that we're covering today. Typically we just go and we give one baseball fact and then we move on. We let Brandon yap about the NHL for a minute and then we move on. And then we spend a majority of our time, recently at least since the Super Bowl, on the NBA. Today, we're really spreading the wealth, but we're going to start with free agency frenzy in the NFL. Agency officially opened up yesterday. So we're recording this on Tuesday. So it opened up Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time. And there have been a flurry of moves. A majority of the top 10 available free agents are off the board. The most notable one that's still out there, unless he has signed in the last 20 minutes, is Trey Hendrickson. So with that being said, Ethan, I'm going to kick it to you. Can you give me a winner of free agency? Could be a player, a team. Really, really open-ended question. Give me somebody that has won the first day and a half of free agency.
I think it's the players in general who are signing these massive contracts, whether it be Alec Pierce for getting over 114 million if he hits incentives, but over 60 fully guaranteed at signing, up to 84 guaranteed, which I don't really understand how that works, how you can be up to on a guarantee if you already have money guaranteed, but it kind of defeats the purpose of a guarantee. But the players in general, I mean, I saw a third string quarterback signed for $2 million to be the third string. I mean, with all the financial struggles that Americans are facing right now, we just keep seeing it. Makes me want to protest the NFL. However, I said this today at work. It's probably not going to happen because that would kill like half of my talking points with all my friends. The players, for 100%. A lot of guys who aren't like superstars. Like, Pegs, did anybody like stick out to you? Like, wow, he got that contract?
I mean, you already alluded to him. It's really Alec Pierce. I mean, I have a list of guys, quite frankly, that it's kind of astounding that they make less money now than Alec Pierce does. You're looking at guys, scary Terry McLaurin, who's been balling in the league for nearly a decade now. T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, who while has lacked a little consistency, I don't think it's debatable that Jalen Waddle is probably a better receiver than Alec Pierce. DJ Moore, George Pickens is probably the most egregious name on that list. He, granted, did just get franchise tagged by the Cowboys. Nico Collins is another name. Nico Collins makes less than Alec Pierce moving forward. To see a guy like that that's been primarily a deep threat throughout his career and not too much else be in the top 10 in terms of AAV for receivers is it's pretty astounding to me. But yeah, that would have
A
to be
lot
my.
of like a lot of mediocre receivers cashed in. 1 yard Wandale, he got over 80 mil.
Mm-hmm.
The Patriots overpaid for Romeo Dobbs today. He
Well, what
got
was that deal? What was that deal end up being?
it's going to end up being around 20 mil AAV, which
20
I
mil a
think
season
is
for Romeo Dobbs?
exactly that. Jalen Naylor got over 10 a year, and that guy has 1,000 yards over 4 seasons. Like, I don't know. It's the players in general. Wide receivers, it might be.
I think this could be a little bit of the salary cap in the NFL going up a little bit more, but also it's just a weak year for wide receivers. We talk about the potential offensive playmakers that are available, not just in free agency right now, but also in the draft rate. We don't talk about there being a lot of explosive options this year. So I think this is just really a lot of guys making the most of hitting the market at the right time.
Yeah, Brandon, do you feel vindicated as a Commander fan that Jahan Dotson signed a 2-year, $15 million deal with 10 mil guaranteed that could rise as high as 17 mil with incentives? Does that make you feel like, yeah, you know what, we made the right pick?
I'm not gonna lie, I still think we let him go a little bit too early. I would like to see a little bit more of him before we had cut loose. I mean,
What, you gave
obviously,
him
he
to
hasn't
Philly
done
for like
much,
a
but
bag of peanuts? No.
I think it was like a third round pick, something like that. Yeah,
So,
not
okay.
much.
Okay.
Hey,
I
did
know
you
I was
say
disappointed when
Hendrickson
we got.
signed?
What's up?
Did you say Hendrickson signed? I
No,
haven't
I'm saying he's
seen.
the best free agent available on the board.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, honestly, for me, if I were to highlight a position group, just kind of going off yours, The centers cashed in. You got a guy like Tyler Linderbaum, who ultimately ended up with the richest center contract, signing on with I almost said Oakland. Wow, the Las Vegas Raiders. Protect very likely first overall pick Fernando Mendoza. Give Ashton Genty some much needed running lanes. Genty got hit behind the line of scrimmage. I'd say more often than not last year, and that's not really what you want out of a back that you invested, I believe, the 6th overall pick in last year. You want to protect him, get him an option. So Tyler Linderbaum was a huge signing for the Raiders. Brandon, you got a winner for me?
Honestly, it's kinda, the one I had picked out was what you just said a little bit. Not necessarily the center market in general, but the Las Vegas Raiders, they're my big winner. Obviously, you just touched on everything I was gonna say about Linderbaum, but at the same time, he's not their only sign. They've also done a little bit to shore up that defense, signing to Kobe Dean and Quay Walker. That's a sneaky, solid linebacker duo right there that's gonna be able
I
to shut
agree.
down the run, and I think a solid defense is one of the most underrated things you can do to help an incoming rookie quarterback. I know they obviously don't have Mendoza quite yet, but assuming that they do go with him at the first overall pick, they're really doing everything possible to make sure he's coming into as good of a situation as you can get from a team that had the first overall pick, this year. So I really like the direction that team is headed, and keep doing what they're doing, keep on that track. Shore up that offensive line a little bit more if you can, but overall positive things about the Raiders so far this offseason.
I would agree. My winner is I'm going to go with a team. I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers. Talking about a team that, although they play in the worst division in the NFL, they're really maximizing that window. They won it last year, going 8-9, and thankfully they're not resting on those laurels. They went ahead and signed Jalen Phillips, who was one of the top pass rushers in the class, and then they went ahead and signed Devin Lloyd, one of the best off-ball linebackers in the class, really shoring up a defense. That offense, still kind of remains to be seen what exactly you have in Bryce Young, but Ted McMillan's a stud. You got, they paid Chuba Hubbard big bucks last year. They let Rico Dowdle walk to Pittsburgh this year. And then they also have Jonathan Brooks, who they invested a second-round pick in just a few years ago, finally coming back from injury. I think there's some question marks on that Carolina Panthers offense, but I really, really like what they did this past season and what they did the past few days, shoring up their defense. I'm a very, very, very big fan of that. Ben, do you have any free agency takeaways, or has that gone by the wayside?
Nah, low-key, I was following along with it a little bit. I noticed the center thing as well. I don't know if you saw, but I threw up a C before you started talking centers before. I mean, I was mostly tracking the Giants. I know you said there weren't a lot of receivers on the board, but it seems like the tight end that we picked up, Isaiah
Absolutely.
Likely seems like a good target, like a good weapon to have in there. I know tight ends aren't technically receivers, but some of these tight ends seem to play a pretty similar role. I mean, Kansas City got Kenneth Walker, no? Is that
Yeah.
like I don't really get how running backs work in the NFL. Like, they're like star players, but I feel like they don't really get treated like them in roster construction. Like, is that gonna have a big impact for them this year?
The thing about that you have to keep in mind about running backs, I think even the NFL is trying to figure out how they value running backs, Ben. So you're certainly not alone in that. I think running backs need to be viewed as the cherry on top. Okay. They are not a foundational piece. You can win a championship without a very good running back, and a very good running back in and of itself does not make you any kind of legitimate contender. Look at Saquon Barkley all those years with the Giants. Then he transitions, goes to a already championship level team with Philly, and he's just a beautiful cherry on top of what is already a really, really dominant team like that. Honestly, even Kenneth Walker this past year with Seattle, no disrespect to him, he's a Super Bowl MVP, but realistically, I think we can all be truthful in saying the real MVP is that Seahawks defense. They win that Super Bowl with if Kenneth Walker played a 9 out of 10, they win that Super Bowl with a running back that was playing a 6 out of 10. Okay. That's just the reality of the situation. So I think Kenneth Walker can be the cherry on top for a Chiefs team that obviously has that championship pedigree. If Pat Mahomes can come back healthy, all that good stuff. I don't look at any running back, though. I shouldn't say I don't look at any running back as a game changer because Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey, but I don't know if I look at K9 as anything more than a very solid piece being added to a team that already has championship aspirations. So could be helpful there. Do we want to talk about
Yeah,
Gino? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
running backs too. I mean, the shelf life is so short on them. Todd Gurley is the perfect example, in my opinion. A guy who lit up the league for 2 seasons, was the best running back in the NFL, arguably from 2017 and 2018, and then took his last snap in 2020. He's only 31 years old right now, same age as Derrick Henry, and hasn't played a snap in over half a decade. Yeah, it does show why teams won't pay running backs this massive amount of money because they take so many hits. They have the most volume out of any other player getting hit. Yeah, Geno Smith to the Jets, though.
Geno to the Jets.
I think that's
Like he's coming home.
hilarious.
He's coming home. So the exact trade, and then I'll let you give your analysis on it. The exact trade was a 6th round pick in exchange for Geno and a 7th rounder. If I read that and remember that correctly, botched a minor detail here or there. Please forgive me. But Ethan, what's your thoughts there?
I think it's just hilarious. It's a Band-Aid, obviously. I think the Jets are very much going to be in contention for that first overall pick in 2027, where they might be looking to select a quarterback. So clearly a Band-Aid move, but good on Geno Smith to come back home. Brandon, what's going on? You just had your hands raised. It kind of threw me off.
Leo Chenal just signed with Commanders. I'm pumped. We needed a linebacker.
Wait, who did?
Was it Leo Chenal? Yeah, linebacker from the Chiefs.
Leo Chenal?
Top 15 linebacker by PFF grades.
Yeah. I went to
Top
high school with
50?
that guy.
Oh God. Well, Brandon, I'm happy for you. I really. Hopefully that's the beginning of the Commanders retooling their whole roster, getting Jeremiah Love in there, getting him a good situation. It's gonna be
Did
okay.
the Commanders acquire Jordan Stout, however?
Didn't we get Jordan Stout? No.
We acquired Jordan Stout. Giants, we're going to have the best special teams in the NFL this year. I'm calling it right now. Harbaugh, at his heart, a special teams guy. We got Stout. He's a little teapot, short end, but he's a beast at what he does. And then we got Brandon Aubrey coming in next week, it seems like, once those trades get flowing. So I'm very excited for that. He's going to be on the fantasy team.
If we actually get Aubrey, that would be awesome.
It seems like a thing that could happen. I'm crossing my fingers.
Like, all kidding aside, what would his trade value be? Like, what would you like? Like, I would give up like a solid defensive player, not like a stud. Like, obviously not Sexy Dexy or like Brian
Kayvon
Burns.
Thibodeau?
I'd give him Kayvon Thibodeau. They asked, give me Kayvon Thibodeau for Brandon Aubrey. Granted, though, if Joe Shane did that, if he deals his former 5th overall pick for a kicker, I think he just signed his own death certificate. But is what it is there. But yeah, I would totally, if they were like, yeah, give us, Kayvon Thibodeau a pick with upside, sure. In a heartbeat.
Is there a reason why Hendrickson hasn't been signed yet?
He's 31. He's dealt with contract disputes in the past few seasons. If you're a team, if you're a team that is in the market for a pass rusher, you might want to invest your capital in younger guys that have a chance to kind of grow into your organization, as opposed to a guy that has a few pelts on his horse and is kind of stuck in his ways. And I'm sure Hendrickson and his camp aren't making it any easier, because based on Hendrickson's production, he should be paid like a top edge rusher in the entire NFL, because again, that has been his production for the past 3 or 4 seasons. But again, those same points are just brought up. Historical contractual disputes. It just seems trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It's just not gonna work out too well. He's gonna have to settle. We'll see what happens. So let's go ahead and go through a few of the teams that might need a quarterback, but where we think these QB battles might end up. So obviously we already talked about the Jets with Geno. Are the Cardinals just going to roll with Brissett and be happy with it? Brandon, is that?
I think they named him the starter.
They did. Wow, they just named Jacoby Brissett the starter. Man, Michael Wilson to the moon then. That dude's going to be different. Browns, they have to be going Shador, right?
Maybe they snag like Ty Simpson in the 2nd round or Carson Beck to compete with him, but
yeah.
Carson Beck. Have you ever seen that guy's Snapchats?
no.
God, dude, he looks
worth
like
a Google.
Timmy from South Park. You guys ever see Timmy from South Park? Carson Beck looks like him, man. It's wild.
I do think there's a clear loser of free agency, by the way. I know we kind of transitioned off that topic, but the clear loser to me is the Miami Dolphins. They have over close to 100 million in dead cap next year. I know they just signed Malik Willis, and Jeff Hafley's obviously bringing in a guy he trusts, right? He worked with him in Green Bay, and he looked good in those games with the Packers. But the dead money that they pay to Tua, to Tyreek Hill, to Minka Fitzpatrick, and there are other names that I'm missing right now. But it's up to 100 million this year, and up to 100 million for Tua alone. Yeah, Ben.
Sorry, this is completely off track, but this popped up on my little CBS NFL free agency tracker because I'm off of the social media. But the Giants will not be getting Brandon Aubrey. We just signed Jason Sanders to a 1-year deal. So kicker watch is over for us, but I call that a success.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Jason Sanders has always been a solid kicker down in Miami. Miami got rid of their punter too, Jake Bailey. I only know that because
Patriot legend.
Patriot legend Jake Bailey. I only know that because I went to high school with his wife and she posted about it. He's going to Atlanta. So, with that being said, Brandon, who the Commanders rolling with at quarterback this year? You guys going to go with the bridge guy? Maybe bring back Taylor Heineke? Is that an option? Carson Wentz?
Believe it or not, it's actually going to be second overall pick and offensive rookie of the year, Jaden Daniels, going into week 1 as our starter, barring
So you're
injury.
about to say Marcus Mariota.
Me too.
That also applies. That does
Yeah.
also apply.
I did see
No,
you
we're gonna
guys re-sign him. So is that
Yes.
your GM's way of kind of indirectly taking a shot at Jaden Daniels, saying, "Listen, we're not handing you these keys. You're gonna have to go into camp and compete for the starting job. We like this Mariota fella quite a bit."
You know, to play along with this for a moment here for you, Pegs, make you feel better about yourself and the rage bait that you're feeding me. I think that that was the goal in the first year, you know, when Jaden Daniels was a rookie coming into camp. You know, hey, we're going to give you a guy who can maybe push you a little bit, give you some competition, but a guy you can beat out assuming you play well enough. And that's exactly what happened. But you know why they kept Marcus Mariota around is because he's a
What's that?
great mentor. He gets along with Jaden. And then most importantly, if he needs to go into a game, he plays a very similar style. So they don't really have to change up the offense at all. They can just keep running the same types of plays that they were running. Obviously, you know, might be a little bit more conservative because he may not have the arm talent that Jaden has, but at the end of the day, similar play style, keep running the same offensive system you've been running.
I hear you. Are you guys any chance you guys re-sign Debo, or is he too fat?
I think he's worn out his welcome in DC from the looks of it. Not that I shouldn't say worn out his welcome.
Less than a year.
I shouldn't say he worn out his welcome, but I really don't think he's coming back. I think if he was going to be coming back, I think they would have gotten a deal done by now.
So who's wide receiver 2 going to be, all kidding aside? Obviously Terry's the one.
Luke
McCaffrey?
Yeah, I say Luke McCaffrey right now, I think, or Jalen
Dang
Lane.
that.
Well done. The correct answer was Ben Sanat, but I will
He's a
take
tight end.
as what's up?
He's a tight end.
Still be
Still.
wide receiver.
I mean, likely is going to be the second biggest receiving option in New York this year, I'd feel like. I think we can count tight ends in the same boat.
Behind Darius Slayton.
Yeah,
That's true.
1-year Wandale, gone to the Titans.
So-
Cam Ward's going to have a field day with that guy.
So are we confirming right here on the Potential Experts podcast that Malik Neighbors is option 3 in New York? Actually,
Well,
he might be 4.
If
Might be 4
we're
behind
counting,
Scannaball.
well,
No,
that's
he
so
might
bad
be
to
5.
say.
I mean, Isaiah Hodgins exists.
Tyrone Tracy.
Tracy.
Ethan thinks we're going to draft like a 4th running back with our top 5 pick, so maybe he falls even lower in the pecking order.
Honestly,
It's
really,
a possibility.
I was gonna say I wish it was ridiculous. I wish I could say, Ethan, you're a moron. Like, why would we do that? But like, it's something I could see Joe Shane doing. I don't think Harbaugh would let him do it. So that is something.
I think Harbaugh's calling the shots now. So
He is.
I think based on the signings with some of the flexibility we got defensively, I think it opens us up to either Downs or Styles. I know we picked up a linebacker yesterday who, again, this is all based off of, YouTube or whatever, would be a very nice fit alongside Styles and would allow him to do some of his more like superhero type stuff while this guy holds down the fort, like kind of as like a coach on defense. So the signings so far have indicated defense in terms of that top 5 pick. So hopefully that's the way it goes.
Yeah, don't be surprised if the Giants maybe target a cornerback too. We did sign Greg Newsome II today. That's a nice little sign. Got him for 1 year, $8 million after Cordell Flott took off for, guess who? The Tennessee Titans. The Titans signed Daniel Bellinger too. They just Brian Dable just went out there and just took our guys, just nitpicked them, which is strange that you take guys from a team that's been one of the worst in the NFL the past few years. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, that was a nice signing with Greg Newsome. Wouldn't be shocked to see the Giants trade a few picks back for a team that maybe wants to come up and put themselves in position to either grab one of the big time defensive players that might have dropped, whether that be an Arvell Reese, a Sonny Styles, a Ruben Bain, or if you want to go ahead and jump up and get one of those top 3 elite wide receivers and have first dibs on any of them. So that wouldn't shock me. I'm not necessarily predicting that, but the Giants at a position at 5 seem to be in a little bit of position of power, whether you take a BPA, best player available, or if you kind of auction that pick off to the highest bidder, recoup an additional asset in doing so, and still get the guy that really fits your team's needs, but a few picks later. Gentlemen, any other Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a prompt for you guys, which I can't answer, but I feel like is a good discussion point. Out of all the contenders, supposed contenders that we have, like the Patriots, Broncos, Seahawks, we want to throw the Bills in there, teams like that, the Rams. Out of all those teams in this very early stage of free agency, who so far has increased their chances the most in terms of getting to a Super Bowl this year and winning one?
I'd like to go first.
I
And say
think the Rams.
Oh, the Rams? Go ahead, Eve. Go. I wasn't going to take that.
They traded for Trent McDuffie. They added the other corner from Kansas City. Clearly a move to say, hey, we need to bulk up our secondary. They signed a safety as well. If we're going to compete with Seattle, right? Seattle's got elite playmakers on offense and elite playmakers on defense. We have the elite playmakers on offense. Let's go get some more elite playmakers on defense. They have Jared Verse and Brian Young up front, but not a whole lot of showing in that secondary. So getting guys like Trent McDuffie, and I forget the other corner's name, to be honest, but it was a clear move that they're going to bolster their secondary. It seemed like you were going to say the Bills, Pags.
Yeah, I just think the addition of DJ Moore is enormous. Khalil Shakir was like their essentially number 1 receiver in this past playoff run. And Khalil Shakir to me is like a good third option. He's a good slot guy. So I do think they should honestly look into making another move to get another pass catcher in there. But Dalton Kincaid is a solid tight end at the same time. Dawson Knox is decent as well. But I really think that move for DJ Moore to give Josh Allen that alpha number 1 receiver that he can just almost use as a safety blanket is enormous. I mean, I'd go as far as saying DJ Moore, if they had DJ Moore this past year, they beat Denver in that game, and then they go to the AFC Championship, and they probably beat the Patriots. But I mean, they did beat them earlier in the year. They could have easily, and they probably lose to the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. But I think the presence of DJ Moore makes this team a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
I would have agreed with you, but partially for the sake of picking somebody else, so we're not all talking about the same couple of teams, I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens. Adding Max Crosby, that's a really solid addition. The Ravens do feel like at times like they, have been a piece or two away over the last few years. Depending on how the rest of the offseason plays out, adding an elite pass rusher like that cannot be understated and help get that Ravens defense back on track. It looked real rough at times last season, so it should be really interesting to see what they can do now that they've got him coming off the edge of opposing quarterbacks.
The Ravens have been a piece away, but the problem is the piece is still under center. That's the issue.
Fair take.
I hate Lamar. He's a bum. Just absolute scrub. Choke artist.
Before we move on from NFL, one last thing. The Jekyll and Hyde Falcons added a quarterback as well. Do we have the QB controversy? We have 2 lefties. I don't know has there ever been a point in NFL history where there have been 2 lefty quarterbacks on the same team? I don't know. I should have Googled this before. But Tua Tagovailoa signed a 1-year deal with the Falcons. What do you guys think? Is he the starter? Is it an open competition, or is this still Michael Penix's job?
I'd say that is open competition. I really do. I don't think Penix has done enough to prove himself as the, foregone starter, but I think they still want Penix to be a starter, and Tua's like, hey, you better get it in gear because we're bringing this guy in to push you a little bit.
Tua is the guy to push. Listen, these guys are both poster childs for why you don't value certain quarterbacks so high. Penix with the 8th pick, Tua with the 5th pick. Their arm talent, Tua's at the very least, is not impressive. I don't know. This is one of the more dismal quarterback rooms I've seen, and 2 guys that I hate Tua. I don't really have any ill will towards Penix, but I hate Tua. Ben?
2 things. First of all, Ethan, 2015 Pittsburgh Steelers employed 2 left-handed quarterbacks. Can you guys name them?
Michael Vick is one of them. The other one, do you recognize them?
Never heard of this guy. No,
What are this guy's initials?
LJ. His first name is not Lefty.
I was about
Just
to
to
go Larry
clarify.
Johnson. Larry Johnson was gonna be my guess.
You're actually pretty close with that. Just in terms of name.
Nothing.
Lenny?
Nah, because his name starts with L and J, and the guy you said started with
I know, and then you're the worst. I hate you. What is it?
Landry Jones.
I do know who he went to
Is he a
Oklahoma, I
lefty?
think.
According
I guess
to
so.
Gemini,
Okay. He
My
did go
other
to
thought on-
Oklahoma.
my
Yep, he
other
did go.
thought on the matter, the Atlanta Falcons signed Tua, so he's Falcon Tua. But if the basketball team there ever needed him, he would be Hawk Tua.
What happened
Which
to
would be
Magic
crazy.
City? The Unicornet got rid of it.
Dude, he's a terrorist. I hate that.
He's like
No,
a
I mean-
really Christian man.
It's pretty actually insane that, like, I mean, basketball games it's like for like children to have like a strip club night. And it's pretty wild.
It's a crazy concept, but it's also like the exact same thing of like it legitimately has nothing to do with you. Like there were a lot of people that came out and thought that Luke Cornett was like had gotten traded. These are casual NBA fans, granted, but these are people that like thought he had gotten traded to Atlanta and he was playing in the game. And then people found out that it's like he has literally nothing to do with it. He just like went out on his own volition and wrote the article. I don't know. Kind of
He's
seems
a
like
blogger.
I know. I don't even necessarily disagree with his perspective. I thought it was like a weird thing to wake up and choose to do. But I guess all of our passions lie in different places. So I'm not going to hate on him too bad. I do just think it was a strange choice. Is that
It's
is that
definitely a weird one.
yeah? Are we good on NFL today? We felt like we exhausted what we can talk about. Yeah, if anything big time breaks, I'll keep an eye on it. If Hendrickson signs or if one of the other big time free agents go, we'll make sure to announce that and talk about it briefly on the pod. But at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Brandon, who I will say, I don't think the NHL gets too much right. I think they're I mean this sincerely. I'm not saying this for rage bait. I really do think the NHL is run by, I think Bettman's a clown. I think their choices in marketing are dreadful. But this is one thing I think they get right. Having the trade deadline in early March. I like this, having it later in the year. So Brandon's going to recap the NHL trade deadline. And, well, the show is yours.
So rather than going through every single trade like you guys basically did on your NBA trade deadline breakdown show, I just kind of said we're gonna pick
Hell
three.
yeah, we did.
You betcha.
And you guys did a fantastic job. I'm not gonna lie. Like it was great content. But for the sake of our audience tonight, I decided to just pick the three biggest, most impactful trades that I think we saw over the course of the deadline. I'm just gonna give a couple of trade grades. We're gonna talk about how that's looking for each side coming out of the deadline. First one I had on the list here, Colorado Avalanche and Calgary Flames. We talked a little bit about this in our trade deadline preview. Ben, do you remember who I was talking about?
We were talking about some.
The Calgary Flames and the Colorado Avalanche.
Yes. Pax, you got a better shot at this one. Do you remember who we talked about? Second line center. We
Nazem
talked about
Kadri.
That's right, Nazem Kadri. I said that was a guy we need to keep an eye on, right? Because going into this deadline, he's going to be one of the bigger pieces that could be on the move. And I said, watch Colorado. Colorado won a cup with him in 2022, that season. And look for them to try and grab him, little reunion there, go on another run. Sure enough, Colorado sends a 2028 first and a 2027 second round pick, along with winger Victor Olofsson and prospect Max Curran. They're going over to Calgary. Colorado also sends a 2027 fourth for Nazem Kadri. I think this is a great fit. So Colorado side of things, I'm giving them an A+, because not only did you add a legit second line center to bring some depth for your upcoming cup run, he's including this year, 3 years left on his contract, and they got Calgary to retain 20% of his contract. So just overall for what they paid, especially given conditions on that pick, I really think they did a great job. The second line center for Colorado has been the biggest missing piece, the piece they've been trying to add ever since Kadri left. They've now brought him back to fill that role. They tried guys like Casey Middlestat, Charlie Coyle. There have been multiple attempts to fill that void that just have not gotten it done. So I think that, Colorado bringing him back, like I said, reunion from the 22 Cup, this is a fantastic move for them. Yes, Ben.
So I know you're talking about three biggest trades. and the first guy you bring up is someone who's coming off the bench for like I guess like a basketball term for it. Like how much in no, I'm not even I'm not trying to be,
I know,
but
no.
how much in hockey, like how different is that than other sports where like your second line like just as important as your first? Is this like your six man equivalent? Like how do you quantify that?
All right. So
Good
in
question.
hockey, right, you have on the ice at a time 3 forwards, 2 defensemen, and a goalie. Okay. Typically, you have 4 lines of forwards. So 4 sets of 3 forwards. You have 3 pairs of 2 defensemen, and then you have your 1 goalie who's in net for the entire game. You have a backup dressed on the bench, but he typically doesn't play unless the first one gets hurt or just plays that dreadfully. So your first 2 lines, like your first line, that's your studs, right? Those are your absolute aces, the guys who are putting up, goal or a point every night at minimum. Those are the guys who are on your first line. Your second line guys on a cup winning team should be maybe not as good as the guys who are on your first line, but basically interchangeable, right? Except for a cup
Mhm.
contending team, like you should have, your second line should be guys who are, point per game producers or close to it. Then you get your third line. Those are the guys who are maybe like, you know, a point every other game or so. Really like that's where you start losing your offensive firepower. You start looking at, managing the game, playing defense, really controlling the game. And then fourth
Eating
line,
minutes.
yeah, exactly. And fourth line, those are your scrappers, the guys who really they're not going to see a whole lot of ice time, but they'll get out there a couple times, give the main 3 a rest. That's usually where you find your fighters. Just to give you kind of an idea. Defense, kind of same thing. Your top 2 pairs, those are your studs. Your third pairs, kind of just getting in there when they
Your
can.
goons.
Exactly, the goons. So we talked about Kadri, he's slotting right back into that second line center slot. Very important piece for them. It's one of the most underrated positions in hockey. Your second line for a second line center, he is an elite second line center. He is about as good as it gets for a second line center. If he's your first line center, you're saying that's pretty good. Like you could do well with that, but you're probably not going to win a cup with him as your first line center.
All right, so this is like trading for like OG Anunoby or Derek White.
Pags would have a better idea on that than me.
Yeah, no, it's that's pretty spot on so far. Primarily NBA listeners that are trying to relate and come up with some kind of equivalent. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Good player, love a role player, but not quite an all-star.
Okay. All right, so flipping it over on the other side of this trade now, though, what Calgary got? Calgary, I'm giving them a B plus. For that, I say you got a good haul, right? You get a first rounder in 2028 and a second rounder in 2027. Those are some good ads. But I also say there are some hefty conditions that are attached to those. Are they going to be met? Not necessarily, but the first rounder is top 10 protected. If Colorado somehow does wind up with a top 10 pick, it'll transfer to 2029. I just think for the quality of player you traded away, I don't think those conditions necessarily need to be attached. What I do think is good though is that second rounder. Calgary owns now Colorado's and Minnesota's. The better of those 2 picks will go to Calgary. So we'll see how that shakes down, but either way, I just think Calgary, you got a solid return. I think you could have gotten a little bit more, but overall, solid net return for a team that's going into a rebuild. All right, shift things on to the coasts, our respective coasts, and that was the Anaheim Ducks and Washington Capitals. They linked up for a surprising deal, one that happened in the middle of the night. Everyone was kind of surprised when they woke up in the morning seeing the headlines on this one, including
Luka
the big
Doncic?
name. What's that?
Was it Luca?
It was not Luka. Not quite as shocking as the Luka trade, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say. But the funny thing, or not funny thing, but the key player in this trade was also, made aware of this when he woke up in the morning and checked his phone and saw that he had been dealt. Not a player that a lot of people were looking at to get traded, but Anaheim made the call and Washington was willing to oblige. That is longtime icon star in Washington on defense, John Carlson, going to the Anaheim Ducks. Washington gets back a 2020 first rounder, a 2027 third. The 2026 first rounder can be transferred to 2027 if Anaheim misses the playoffs this year. So I think Anaheim's pretty much a lock. They're certainly not the best playoff team that we've seen in recent years, but they are first place in the Pacific Division, a weak Pacific Division. So it does look like they'll make it, but just worth noting that if something falls apart, because they aren't exactly safe, that pick would be transferred a little bit further down the line. I gave Anaheim for this trade because you added a 35-year-old veteran defenseman, John Carlson. I gave him a B, right? And I look at that as their poised to make a playoff run. So adding and giving this group a little bit of a boost there, always a good move when you're going to be making a playoff berth. But at the same time, I have questions about how good this team is going to be in the playoffs. This is a team coming out of a very long rebuild. Tom hasn't done anything to really show me that they can contend with the top of the line teams, but they are a young group. So I think the biggest part of this is you're bringing in some solid leadership, a veteran presence, a guy who's been in a cup winning locker room before to kind of show this young group this is what it looks like to be a winner. This is what it takes to win a Stanley Cup. You're bringing in that veteran presence, that veteran leadership, and you're helping bolster your playoff run, but also showing these younger guys like it. I think of it as a learning experience for Anaheim. So that's kind of why I gave him a B. I don't think Carlson really fits their timeline, but I think it's going to wind up being a very important piece if they're going to contend in future years. Especially given Carlson, like I said, he's 35 years old. He's
He
pure
totally
rental.
just
He's
froze,
on an
didn't he?
expiring
Yeah,
contract.
he did.
Something that you're going to have to watch for.
Okay.
He
as we go
froze
forward.
like the ice in hockey.
Well, okay.
I
So
actually
yes,
had a legit question for him too.
well, maybe we can get him back soon. Listen, John Carlson, beloved in Washington, actually scored the cup-winning goal, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know how much he has left in the tank, but is what it is.
Are the Ducks in contention?
Let's look that up. Welcome to Hockey Time.
I'm on it.
All right, you're on it.
Are the Ducks in contention?
I'm gonna get Brandon's third trade because he did send it to me. Like I told you guys. Oh, he sent me so many.
He's
Okay.
gone, John.
He's gone. Okay, I got
What
it.
are we gonna do?
Well, I got his third deal. The Islanders and the St. Louis Blues had a swap today. Not today, a few days ago. St. Louis captain Braden Shen was sent to Long Island with 2 years left on his deal. In exchange for Shen, St. Louis Blues got a 2026 first, a 2026 third, Jonathan Drouin, and Marcus Gidloff. Shen is on pace for 37 points, which is his lowest since his second NHL season in 2012-2013, so over a decade ago. What does that say? Oh, the Islanders are in a precarious playoff spot, and he does not believe it is worth the assets that the Islanders gave up to acquire this individual. St. Louis got a haul. Good for them. Moving on from their guy, even though he was the captain, moving on at the right time. It's very, very similar to the Kadri return, but he's half the player that Nazem Kadri is. So it's just really not, it's just, it's not apples to apples. Finally, for St. Louis, great way to help the rebuild. And yeah, Ben.
And Ethan, to answer your question, the Oregon Ducks are considered strong contenders for the 2026 College Football Playoff National Championship.
And
All right.
always hard-hitting analysis, all that good stuff.
The Anaheim Ducks, however, were eliminated from playoff contention.
No way. No way.
It's March
According
10th.
to Google Gemini, they have
Chance.
been following years of missing the postseason, have been
They're-
eliminated for the 7th straight season as of early April 2025.
So that's
I just saw that part.
They're in first place in their division.
Don't blame me. Don't blame me. I'm just reading the facts from what I got on the internet.
Brandon,
so Brandon, Pags recap their trades. I do have a question for you, though.
Well, where did we leave off? That's what I gotta get caught up here.
We're talking about the Oregon Ducks and the Anaheim Ducks.
Okay.
we all
Have you
talked
had
about
duck dinner?
Shen to the Islanders and how it was a ridiculous deal, and that the Islanders gave up way too much, and St. Louis clearly won that deal, at least from the outside looking in right now.
Okay, fantastic. Glad you covered it. Good thing I sent you my notes earlier.
That was off
I
the
was
dome.
also
I didn't-
saying I had just read a story about the Ducks. It was like all of them, but there was one player who they're all like, this guy's really ugly. He's so ugly. And then after a few years of development, it turned out he was actually a beautiful goose instead. So don't judge a book by its cover. All right. These young players can take a while to develop.
Is this really what we're doing now? Wow.
Listen, you could be an elementary school teacher with morals and lessons like that, Mr. McPherson.
Yeah, you know it. I'm teaching morals to these 14-year-olds all the time. Big morals guy. Big character builder.
Brandon, I'm looking at the sorry, I'm going back to sports now. I'm looking at the NHL schedule. There's not schedule, excuse me, standings for the first time in months because quite frankly, the Rangers have been garbage all year long, and I just don't care. How is it that the Anaheim Ducks are in first place in the Pacific with 73 points? And if you look at the Central, Colorado is over 20 points ahead of them. Dallas is 15 points ahead of them, and Minnesota is over 10 points ahead of them. All three of those teams drastically ahead of Anaheim. How does that even, how is there that big of a disparity division wise?
So I think we talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the year. When I told you guys that the Central Division was loaded, I wasn't screwing around, right? Colorado and Dallas, we talked about them last year. That was whoever won that matchup in the first round of the playoffs, I thought was going to win the Stanley Cup. Obviously, it did not wind up happening, but they are two absolute juggernauts that you cannot sleep on, and they're proving everyone right with that record they've been putting up this year. Just absolute studs on both rosters. And Minnesota Wild, if you remember right, they were one of my preseason teams to watch. They were a team that I thought was really going to take a big step forward. With a Quinn Hughes trade, not quite what I thought was coming, but at the same time, they've proven that they can win hockey games. They can play good hockey. So those three teams being at the top of the Central Division right now doesn't even surprise me a little bit. As far as the Pacific Division goes, it really comes down to Vegas and Edmonton have not been able to get the goaltending that they need to be able to get to win games, and that's evident in their records. And then Anaheim is just a young team who's frankly popping off and doing really well. So positive things to see from Anaheim. I think that they're a little bit due for this. They've been going through a long rebuild and it's finally paying off. So I just think that this is a reflection of Vegas and Edmonton slowing down a little bit. Like I said, goaltending flaws and Anaheim starting to come out of a shell. It just so happens that it all came together in the same year, and that's leading to a very weak path through the playoffs, through the Pacific Division. Hence why I think Anaheim, I think I wouldn't be shocked if they were able to push through to the conference final, just because you look at, as of right now, who they'd have to play. They would play the first wild card team, which is the Utah Mammoth. I don't think that would be an easy series, but I wouldn't say that Anaheim is not capable of winning it. And then you're talking about, having to play the winner of the Golden Knights or Edmonton. As long as you can continue to put pucks in the net, you could beat Connor McDavid. Who knows? So just a matter of how the chips kind of fall. I'm not saying that they're guaranteed to win, but I am saying, given the way those teams have played this year, it wouldn't shock me.
Brandon's guaranteed a championship. All right. Connor McDavid also can't win the big one, so
They've proven that. Olympics. Go check.
And in the cup the last few years. Dude, did you see Matthew Tkachuk's trash talk to Leon Draisaitl when the United States played Germany? That was hilarious.
I did. I don't remember what it was now. I remember seeing it. I couldn't tell you what it was now.
He just kept looking at him so obviously for context, this was in the midst of the United States giving Germany belt. They were beating the crap out of them. And keep in mind, Matthew Tkachuk's Florida Panthers have defeated Draisaitl's Edmonton Oilers the past 2 seasons in the Stanley Cup final. And so the entire game, Tkachuk's just yapping at him. Always the bridesmaid, Leo, never the bride. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Just flapping his gums at him over and over. It was hilarious. I love it.
The Tkachuk brothers are the epitome of, I absolutely hate them, but guy you love to have on your team. Also, we have some breaking news that I would like to break right here. I would like to take back what I said about Max Crosby to the Ravens, because Adam Schefter is now reporting that the Ravens have backed out of the Max Crosby trade.
What?
This is happening live. We're sitting here right now. Adam Schefter reporting that, like, quite literally right now, Ravens have just backed out of the Max Crosby trade.
Wow. He's a giant.
Now, okay, I have to ask, because if I remember correctly, the Cowboys were in on it. Did the Cowboys step up and make a bigger offer? Because the Cowboys have been quiet for the most part in free agency so far. Did they step things up to try and make a move for Max Crosby? That's what I want to know right now.
I feel like it'd be the Bears, if anybody. The Bears have kind of reallocated money. They cut Trey Edmonds. He obviously ended up in New York. I just what have the Bears done of note that would be I feel like they need a big splash.
This is absolutely wild. It happened while we're recording. That's just crazy.
Yeah, this is one of those that I'm trying to get onto Twitter right now and understand what's shaking down. Adam Schefter, Ravens backed out of the Max Crosby trade. The Raiders tweeted out, the Baltimore Ravens have backed out of our trade agreement for Max Crosby. We have no further comment at this time. Guy, Brandon, how do you break the Max Crosby news and totally skip out on the news that Schefter reported 5 minutes ago?
Greg Calcaterra has
Grant
returned to the
Calcaterra!
Eagles.
Let's go!
He is a league winner.
Sorry, but ESPN did not notify me about Grant Calcaterra.
That's
They only
your
noted me.
fault.
They only told me about Leo Chenal. I'm sorry.
Grant Calcaterra, he's going to be the reason that my dynasty reignites in Dynasty. Anyways, hey, Shockey.
Who in the world is Calcaterra?
He's a very, very, very below average tight end for the Eagles that our entire friend group really likes for some reason. We used to really like Justin Tucker, and then due to recent events, we had to kind of
You gotta get a new one.
yeah, we had to pick a
Well,
new
it was
guy.
the storyline of Cats trading for him, then dropping him, and then picking him up and dropping him, and then
and then
everybody
offering him in other
kind
deals.
of
Yeah.
everybody's kind of circled around.
Well, the best part was that before all the allegations came out, we were actually like actively having a conversation about like, this dude's clearly going to the Hall of Fame. Like, do we as a group just have to drive out to Canton for his Hall of Fame induction ceremony when that inevitably does happen? And then his entire career fell apart basically overnight.
It would have been a sick road trip with the boys, and I've never been to Canton. It actually would have been a phenomenal excuse to go there. And obviously, it would have stemmed from a joke, but it would have been one of the more fun trips we've ever done. Back to the Max Crosby deal, because that obviously is a priority. I mean, you wonder if there was an issue with the physical. You wonder if there was an issue personality wise. I really don't know. It's very strange for a trade to have been agreed upon and then backed out. You really only see situations like this every once in a blue moon in sports. You saw last year with the Mark Williams trade in the NBA, how who ended up backing out of that one was with the
The
Lakers back
Lakers.
the Lakers backed out of it, much to the Hornets' chagrin. Years even before, I think you're looking like 2015, maybe 2016, DeAndre Jordan had a deal with the Mavericks in free agency that he then backed out of to go back to LA, the Clippers, and then he ultimately signed with the Mavs a few years later, which was in the offseason of 2018, I believe, which was strange. But yeah, you really don't see this too often in trades about teams just reneging on agreed upon offers. There's going to be details that come out in the next few days if I'm a betting man that kind of that dissects this move a little
Yes.
bit.
And looking at this from another side of it too, not just from the team side of it, you have to wonder now, Max Crosby, he's been very vocal about he wants out of the Raiders, right? That they're not going anywhere, and there was clearly some bad blood when he got benched at the end of last season. So you have
Yes.
to wonder, how pissed is he right now that he's not going to the Ravens? Because that was his ticket out. So what are we doing now? Is he going to get dealt to somebody else, or
They're
are they going
gonna
to wind up
deal.
stuck with him?
They're going to deal him elsewhere. He's too talented to not command a haul elsewhere, and um, maybe it's not going to be to the extent that Baltimore was willing to trade him, but you can't have the guy like that back in the building after that. There's just no way. All right, we get to move on to NBA. Let's move on to
Yeah.
the NBA.
Cool, man.
E, where's yours? Oh,
Boy.
I thought we were gonna.
He's back.
He is.
That worked really well because it's an audio podcast.
Hey, we're
Yeah,
on
but
YouTube. We're on YouTube.
People can see it, even on Spotify. You can see it, but I'm sure nobody's watching it. I was holding up a Jason Tatum shirt that my aunt actually gave to me, and they were giving these out at the Garden the other night. It says "Back to Zero" on it. Anyways, he's back. Has looked good in his first 2 games. There's obviously some things left to be desired. He doesn't have that first step that he had last year, and that's to be expected. But he's looked comfortable in the 27 minutes he's played in the 2 games, the first one against Dallas, and then a very solid win against Cleveland. I've liked what I've seen. Obviously, he's not going to go for 35 right out of the gate, but to have
Yeah.
nearly a triple-double in the first game and then a 12-point first quarter against a good Cleveland team, finish with 20. I've liked what I've seen so far.
Yeah. I mean, you've definitely liked it. I mean, honestly, for me, like it is a feel-good story. Ben and I, for years now, have been Tatum guys, even as Knicks fans. He just seems like a great dude. So we're very happy that he's back out there. I mean, I can't imagine Jaylen Brown's feeling too great about it. I was watching that first game. I saw Tatum wide open for three and Jaylen Brown jacking up a contested mid-range with 2 on him. it's going to take a while for him to figure that out. And half of when I say this Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum stuff is kind of just me messing with Celtics fans a little bit. But I do honestly think there's some truth in there. So we'll see. I mean, you need to have a very cohesive locker room to win an NBA title. And, according to ESPN and Brian Windhorst and whatever, Celtics are title favorites now. So if that's their goal, Brown's going to need to get off his high horse a little bit. They're going to have to go full team basketball. I think Tatum's willing to do it. I think the other guys there are willing to do it. Jaylen Brown, I mean, realistically, yeah. Like, I think he knows that he's the second guy there, but I will never not believe that he's not at least a little bit unhappy about, I'm leading the team all year. I'm our star. Tatum comes back. He's the last guy in the starters announced. And it's like, oh, now it's the Tatum show again. So I don't know.
I don't think there's too much bad blood. I mean, those guys are brothers. Jalen said it the other night in an interview. Like he said, that's my brother out there. They grew up. They've grown up together. Through their late teens to now almost 30. They've been together for the past what 8 years now. A lot of chemistry between the two. There's been talk forever of them getting split up. They've done it. They've known how to make a run. They know how to mesh. I'm not too worried about the chemistry issue, but I do see what you're saying. Like it might take a hit to him personally. What do you think, Ben?
I mean, it seems like there's been, this weird like chemistry tension development over the years, kind of like almost like a will they, won't they type of thing. Do you think those two have ever kissed?
Maybe. Who knows?
It's a good question.
Are they the most likely NBA teammates to have kissed at some point?
No.
No?
Not
We might have two of them on our team.
Dennis Rodman exists.
Cat and
I was thinking like
I'm thinking Brunson and Hart.
well, I know who you're thinking. No, there's no way Brunson would allow that. Hart would be all about it. There's no way. Like I was honestly thinking like I could picture like J Dub and Chet.
You could picture J Dub and Chet. We should do an NBA fanfic episode. What do they call it? What
All right,
is that?
hey,
Oh,
let's remember we got to keep this PG-13, guys. Just
It
keep
is.
that in
just
mind.
kissing.
You're just kissing.
Yeah,
man.
it's just a kiss. Yeah.
By the way, I did want to follow up, because I know this happened over a week ago, so I apologize for not bringing it up until now. But the whole brawl with Oklahoma City and Denver because Lou Dort cheap shotted Jokic while he was just strolling up the court, and those two got into it. Those two were both on my Brawl Star team, and you could think that's not good. They're fighting each other. That's dissension in the locker room. No, that's iron sharpens iron right there. So my team just got a big upgrade because of two players on my team going nose to nose and getting at it. It was awesome.
Speaking of fighting, I actually have some NHL talk. We'll circle back to that for a minute.
Thank goodness. Yes.
Yeah, I know. Just what our fans want, just what Ben wants. If anyone watched the Tampa Bay Lightning and Buffalo Sabres game from this past weekend, massive brawl, 15 goals in game, first game since the 1980s with 15 combined goals or more and 100 combined penalty minutes. So hell of a game. Go watch the highlights if you missed it. Shocked Brandon Hagel did not get a suspension, only a 5K fine.
there was a Brazilian soccer game over the weekend between Cruzeiro and Atlético Mineiro. I'm not too good with my Brazilian team names, but 23 red cards were handed out at the end of the game.
That's
How's it even possible? Aren't there
Yeah.
22 guys on the field?
There are, but somebody on the bench must have gotten one too.
they pulled an Isaiah Stewart.
So a lot of suspensions for those two teams coming up over the next couple of days.
Might
I
have to-
actually have some soccer stuff too, but we've been running long. But it is the middle of the Champions League right now. Chelsea plays PSG tomorrow. Madrid, Man City for the fourth time in 50 years. Can't wait.
All right,
That's
Ethan,
all.
back to basketball. I do like to make fun of the Celtics, but I would say that they are one of the two top contenders in the East right now. Ben and I were, we were talking a little bit before the show. The Knicks had some really good wins last week, and they honestly should have picked up another win against Oklahoma City. I might be one to blame things on refs more often than I probably should, but there was a lot of people out there who never blame stuff on the officiating, who even for that game were like, yeah, that was ridiculous. Came down to a 3-point game. New York, they had a shot to win even with the officiating, but they They destroyed San Antonio, destroyed Denver. They had a rough weekend. They're the most confusing team in the league. They're very up and down, but I do think them and Boston, when they're playing their A-plus game, those are the two best teams in the East. However, neither of them are at the top of the conference. Detroit is still up there, but I know you were saying you had some thoughts on them that you wanted to share. And I'm very interested to hear it because we are getting, we're about a month away from the playoffs in the NBA. Detroit has proven to be a force in the regular season, but I still would not put them on that New York, Boston, or maybe even Cleveland tier when it comes to actual playoff threats in the Eastern Conference. And I want to hear what you have to say about
Yeah, I mean, they've had a fantastic year. Credit to JD Bickerstaff, credit to Cade Cunningham, who's going to be first team All NBA this year. But I texted Pags earlier this week and I said the Pistons are frauds. They've now lost 4 in a row. Their last loss was pretty bad. They were up 20 against Brooklyn, who's not a good
it.
team, and lost that game. And they have a clear identity. They are a tenacious defensive team. However, when you look at the stats of the rest of the teams, right? Who are the two teams that allow less points per game than the Detroit Pistons? The last two champions, the Thunder and the Celtics. And these are teams with more offensive weapons than the Pistons. I just think the Pistons' lack of outside shooting outside of Duncan Robinson, because he's spectacular, they don't really have consistent outside shooters or really a consistent second scorer. Only 2 guys on the Pistons this year have scored 30 or more points in a game. Duran's done it 4 times. Obviously, Cade's done it a handful of times. But you look at the other contenders in the NBA, the Nuggets, Cavs, Knicks, Celtics, Spurs, they all have 4 or more guys who have scored 30 points. The Thunder have only had 2, but you can kind of blame that on J-Dub not being healthy. We've seen him do it, right? We've seen him go off in
We've
the
seen him do it
playoffs.
in the finals.
Exactly. We've seen him go for 40 in a finals game. So I kind of omitted them, but just a lack of secondary scoring for me really puts them in a deep hole when you need buckets. If Cade's going cold, who are you really going to? Are you going to a post guy / offensive rebound guy? I don't think so. Right? Is Duncan Robinson going to shoot your way out of it? Thompson's a great defender, but don't know how much he's providing on the offensive end. Harris is a little bit past his prime at this point. I just don't see it, in my opinion. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. Ben and I talked about it when we did the NBA trade deadline. The fact that they didn't go out and get a secondary scorer for that team and instead went and just did kind of a little, you know, on the perimeter move, getting Kevin Herter, it's going to be an issue in the playoffs. That's why I've had issues, having faith in them all year long. I don't know. You could be proven wrong in the playoffs, but I have a hard time finding a path to be proven wrong. And so, yeah, if they want to win a championship, Cade's going to have to be Superman. I don't think he has enough playoff experience quite yet to be Superman in the playoffs for 4 straight rounds. And they are well coached in terms of a system, but I don't know if JB Bickerstaff is necessarily a great in-game or playoff series game-to-game adjustment guy. We saw Tibbs coach circles around him a couple years ago. I mean, those Cleveland teams with him always disappointed. We saw Tibbs coach circles around him last year too. And yeah, so I think that's another big part of it. That's a big reason why I don't have Bickerstaff as my coach of the year. I actually have, your Joe Mazzulla for that spot because I think he can do the system and the game-to-game stuff a little bit better than Bickerstaff can, even though he also got outcoached by Tibbs last year too. So we will see. Ultimately, time will tell, and it's super exciting that this stuff is coming up. Because like I said to Ben earlier this week, the regular season is just so long. Like you mentioned, Caruso had said this on a podcast this week. Those guys, like, admittedly, are not giving it their all every single night in the regular season. And there's a lot of things about these teams that we're just not going to know until we see it in April. So I don't want to call the regular season a wash because it's good for building culture and it's important to get a good position in the standings. But I think we've seen more and more with just the wear and tear on these guys' body and the speed of games that they are giving the regular season so much less than they do in the playoffs. And it's so much harder compared to a sport like football or baseball to carry over takeaways from the regular season into playoff predictions. And so that doesn't necessarily mean Detroit is going to be a bad playoff team, but it's very hard to say based on how dominant they've been in the regular season, that's going to translate to playoff success, especially when they are one of those teams that is going out and playing much harder than your average NBA contender is on a nightly basis. Does that catch up to them? How does that pan out when everyone is playing at that level in April?
Yeah, I mean, I think a prime example of that is last year. The Celtics went 4-0 against the Knicks in the regular season, and then the Knicks obviously beat them in a series, 4 games to 2.
Yeah, I mean, we beat Indiana in the regular series last year and then lost them in the playoffs. Detroit beat us in the regular season last year, and then we beat them in the playoffs. Like it's so hard to carry over those things. It is really such a different game. When you sit down and watch an NBA playoff game, it more than any other professional sport, it feels like a completely different game than a regular season game does.
Absolutely. I
Actually,
do
the
have a
NHL has a claim.
quick trivia question based off of the 30-point scores. So I mentioned some teams. Only one of those teams has 6 30-point scorers. Who do you think that team is?
6 30-point scores on an NBA team this year.
Yeah,
Is it Cleveland?
it's not Cleveland. They've only had 4.
Not the Knicks.
The team in
It's
the
not the
East.
Knicks. They've only had 4. It's not a team in the East either.
I'm going OKC.
They've
They only had
6.
2, he
Yeah.
said.
Sorry. My internet connection crapped out again.
Yeah, this guy's been going through it today. If not, did San Antonio get that?
They had
Like
6.
the
Yeah.
6 are Wemby,
Yeah.
Fox, Castle. I feel like those 3 are very clear. Did Keldon Johnson get to 30 at some point?
He did not.
Champagne gave
Right.
us 30.
Yeah,
Champagne. Harper, did he ever get a 30 piece this year?
he did not.
Barnes.
Yep.
Who else got 30 on that team?
The Unicornet definitely didn't.
No. He starts.
He starts. This is Vassell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, that checks out. What the Knicks are at 4? Have we gotten 4
Mhm.
guys to 30 or just 3? Who was our
4.
4th? Was it Shamit? Was Shamit our
Yeah.
4th?
Well,
Shaman had that game in Miami. We should be at 5.
Maybe I missed it. Maybe it's 5. Maybe I missed Shamit because I did not
Did
have
Michael
him
Bridge
on it.
have 30 this year?
He's done
he
it a
dropped
couple
30 against
times, yeah.
Boston. Against Boston, that game we lost in early December.
Oh, that's right. Dude, Michael Bridge has been in full effect
Yeah.
these past few days. He had a big donut against the Lakers. He only gets Mikal Bridges when he's playing like a guy who got traded 5 first-round picks for. When he's not in Knicks land, he is Michael Bridge. All right. That's all I have on NBA. Unless there's anything else to add, I have a few UBC thoughts because it is ramping up right now. I'll keep it very quick, but there are a few things to look out for. Hopefully, this podcast is out by tomorrow because Wednesday night, I think we may have the biggest sporting event of the year so far, if we're talking globally, because obviously Super Bowl here is big. But the Dominican Republic and Venezuela, both undefeated in their group, both with countless MLB studs on their team. I mean, you look at the DR, you got Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis, Vlad Guerrero, Manny
Machado.
Machado, and then
That stadium's going to be popping.
Yeah, and then Venezuela, like you have Luis Arias, Eugenio Suarez, you had Glaber there. They got a bunch. They got some
Acuna.
pitchers too. Acuna, yeah, of course. So they're both very stacked teams, and they're in the same group. The way the World Baseball Classic works, if you have 4 groups, you have the top 2 teams from each group advances. All right. One group is already finished up, and that is the group with Japan in it. Japan won that group, obviously. They went 4-0. The loser of the Venezuela Dominican Republic game is going to finish second in their group and have to play Japan in the first round of the elimination stages for the World Baseball Classic. So if Venezuela wins, 2 of what were considered the top 3 teams heading into this thing in the DR and Japan are going to be playing in the first round of the playoffs. That will be an electric matchup. And if the Dominican Republic takes care of business, that Venezuela team still has the ability to give Japan a real scare early on, especially a Japanese team that had a pretty weak kind of pool group and hasn't been challenged too much yet. Venezuela, after seeing a team like the DR, can go out there and have a jump on them in these intense, high-stakes games. So that's going to be a very big matchup. The games have been thrilling so far. Like, it's really cool how the groups they're playing in different parts of the world. The stadiums are packed, the fans are in it, everyone is getting that national pride. The American team has been off to a great start. Paul Skeens was on the mound against Mexico. Mexico actually played a very good game. They got some guys on their team. They got Duran, they got Alejandro Kirk. Um, but Skeens was dicing. He had 7 strikeouts. And then I don't know if you guys saw, but Bobby Witt Jr.
That was
had
sick.
2 insane plays in shortstop, especially the first one for the ball on his knees. He knows it's Alejandro Kirk hitting, so he has some time. From his knees, launches it to first base. Bryce Harper gets the out, and the camera cuts to Paul Skeens, who's famously a pretty stoic guy, and just the joy he had on his face playing with these guys as opposed to the Pittsburgh Pirates was quite entertaining to watch. Aaron Judge has had a good start to the tournament. He's leading the team. He's the captain. He's making plays at the bat and in the field. That team is just insane. Not only is the hitting talent there, but just compared to these other teams who may have a few good pitchers, the way the USA, just their starters and bullpen run so deep, it's just like a battle of attrition against them where they're just going to keep on wearing you down with their pitchers. They're never going to run out of good arms. And then these other teams, they need to do their damage early because if they don't, if their starters are on the mound for 20 pitches in the first inning, they run out of guys to go at these premier hitters. And it creates a very tough situation that pitching staff and for the United States team gives them such an advantage over all these other teams that are out there. So it's just been very entertaining to watch. Elimination play starts Thursday night. These games are all on at pretty good times. So I would definitely recommend watching it. The championship will be held a week from today. And so you just have some really good teams. You're going to see some good first round matchups with Japan playing whoever they play against. And then hopefully we get a showdown of the USA, DR, Japan in the final 4 with one other team getting in there. Because there is really, baseball is a global sport, even though, it's America's pastime. It's actually down to the 4th most popular sport in America now, but on a global scale, it is doing excellently. So it's a very cool time. I'm having a lot of fun with the tournament. I know it's probably not getting like the biggest, ratings or viewings in the United States right now, but I think it's really worth tuning into, especially once elimination starts.
Love it. Ben, if I didn't know any better, I think you were a lifelong baseball fan. Your growth in that department has been exceptional. When we first
I'm
met
not a
each other,
shower, man.
yeah, dude, when we first met back in 2023, you did not care one bit. This
I love baseball. It's so fun.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to ripping some games at the stadium, maybe City Field, maybe head down to the bank this summer. It's gonna be a great time. All right, gentlemen, we got anything left? I got my catamounts on the screen right now, looking to clinch a
Just
looking to
la-
clinch a
Playing
East final.
just
What?
last thing to add, update on the Max Crosby situation. The Athletic is now reporting that the trade fell apart because he failed his physical. So we now have at least some kind of update on what's going on there.
Yeah, that's
All
much less
right.
exciting than anything else, but is what it is. And he'll get it together. He'll get dealt. He won't be a Raider to start the year. There's just no way. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. As always, spread the word. Next week, we'll be able to break down the bracket, which I could not be more excited about. I sent the link to all 3 of you guys. Join up. Send it to your friends. Please, I'm not talking to listeners right now. I'm talking to my 3 co-hosts. Get some people to join so we can have a pretty good prize pool for March Madness this year. All right. With nothing else, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.
Ciao.
Have a good one, guys.